Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by AFA. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and today we're going to discuss the importance of continuing to learn. And I've got Aaron here today because I know he likes to learn.
That's right.
Loves learning.
About my fifth or sixth
Podcast? Yeah, excellent. He's almost a regular now, you would say. But I think continuing to learn is a good topic. I sort of done a recent podcast on different training apps and programs we can use as a PT. And one of the things that came up was how did I get exposed to that? And I think you get exposed to things through work experience, through meeting colleagues, through seeing how other people do things, but you have to still apply that yourself and develop different skills. So obviously doing a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness through AFA, you'll learn a heap of skills, a heap of knowledge, a heap of theory, you'll learn how to apply it, but there's always other things in the industry that you can apply to your business or the way you coach that are going to help you not only run your business, but give your clients a better service as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the important thing is to know, regardless of what qualification you study, to further yourself in the fitness industry. It doesn't always have to be a recognised qualification to count as continuing to learn.
Not at all.
So I think one of the most important things for Tom and I is we both have different ways of going about continuing our learning, but we both also have different mentors that we probably look up to, who have paid their dues in the industry as well, of fitness and strength and conditioning and powerlifting, etc. And that is one way that we continue to learn as well, is respecting those that have come before us.
Yep.
And the knowledge that they have. Again, you don't need to take everything as gospel. You will find your own way of doing things, but it's always really important to take on the opinions of those with a little bit more experience too.
Yeah, definitely. And even people who are still coming through, you'll learn from a range of people, I think. But I guess that's where you look at we obviously teach you as much as we possibly can throughout the course and how to be a personal trainer and how to do it. But there's always things in the industry which is there's a lot of talk about half science, half art, half science, that sort of thing. Coaching is an art, coaching is and sort of the mix between the two. But there is definitely a mix. I think it's not everyone coaches the same, and I think and that's based on the experience. I think so. Aaron's experience of people he's worked with and seen coached with and trained with, and his jobs have given him a range of skills and experience that he's learned to apply. And it's not exactly the same as the experience and pathways I've been through in the industry as well. So, and it's cool to see different ways we've coached and through different experiences, we've sort of applied, we have, I would say, similar knowledge. I guess fundamental knowledge. Aaron probably thinks he's got it covered, but
no, we're different. And I think
we are different.
I think that's the key. I mean, when it comes to my experience, I'm more of a probably injury prevention, rehabilitation side of things with my remedial massage background too.
Yep.
Whereas if it is something that is based on a question around the sports science principles, I know that, but I know that Tom knows that and has a more well-rounded approach to that. And if it's something vice versa, if it's something more towards injury prevention or rehab,
anatomy,
or
that sort of thing,
anatomy or postural, Tom might actually ask me. So we probably have a professional relationship that's based a bit on rivalry and competition in a fun type of way. But I know that when I ask an opinion of Tom, I know that I'm going to probably learn something off that because it's going to be based off the knowledge that he has. So that's colleagues are probably the best people to be learning off too. And again, having the challenge of that as well and challenging the opinions, not just for the sake of it, but that is a way that you can help reshape your opinion. Being closed-minded in the fitness industry is such a damaging thing, for not only for you, but for your clients as well.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I think obviously it's good to have a foundation of knowledge, but don't be afraid to sort of learn from other people. If you see someone implementing things, whether it's a program, whether it's an exercise, or if it's a colleague, ask them, hey, that's a cool exercise, where did you see that?
Yeah,
or why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You don't always have, you can just enjoy their answer, get a bit of a conversation going. You don't have to take that on as I need to use this exercise or even agree with what they've done, but you don't have to argue their point and say they shouldn't be doing it. But take it on and learn different things. And it's not always based around what exercises to implement or what you see, but different skills. It could be how they coach an exercise, what teaching cues do they use, or even, like I said on the last program, what program do they use to give their programs to their clients? What app do they follow? How do they book their clients in? How do they get payments from them? There's more than one way to do these things.
Yeah, and there is not necessarily the right way to
Exactly.
do that because you might have a couple of different programs that you run through for your program cards, depending on the, I guess, demographics
Yep.
that you are training. Older clientele might not be used to that either, and that's not the way that they've always done it. But again, that's not necessarily the wrong way to go about it. So you learning a well-rounded, I guess, having a well-rounded bag of skills to be able to pull out for the right situation is key. So if we look at, I'm just going to go off tack a little bit here. If we look at continuing to learn, when we both finished our, I guess, university qualifications,
Yep.
there's always, and probably for you guys too, when you get to the end of your certificate 3 or certificate 4, there's always that bit of time of, I'm not going to study again. There's the feeling of,
Yeah, it's done. It's my last
relief,
assessment.
my last assessment, I'm done. I'm overwhelmed with that now, and I want to let that go. Without knowing it, your first day working within the industry or your first day at a new job, you will still learn a lot of new skills through that. It might not be the official qualification that you're doing, but learning to adapt yourself to be reading articles or reading different blog posts from individuals too, or now it's Instagram posts as well from other people out there. It's a really good way to start your journey to continuing to learn.
Yeah, I think we might expand on options for learning as we go, but I think what a really good point was, like, we get to our end of our study, we submit our last assessments, like, yes, and it's a great feeling, and you should enjoy that feeling for sure.
Savor it, yeah.
Savor it. But I think, and I don't know about Aaron, but I always sort of enjoyed learning. But I guess I enjoyed learning also a lot, not necessarily, probably more, I might say more, after university and after my course.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's because assessments, you're trying to learn what you need and you have to show your learning, which I think is important to maintain quality in the industry. But learning is a skill, and sometimes I enjoy it more now because I can read about topics I enjoy. I don't have to worry about writing an assessment or answering questions on it, but I can take in knowledge just to expand myself, but I don't have to prove it. Which
There's not a grade assigned to your learning. And how much you absorb. Yeah, I completely understand.
So there's definitely a fundamental knowledge I think everyone should get tested on and learn.
For sure.
But you can keep expanding that, and you don't have to. It's sort of a stress-free learning.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why assessments exist, certificate level, degree level, regardless, is to make sure that you have basic fundamental knowledge to be able to go out in the industry and perform your job as safely as possible and to get the clients to a point where they are getting their results as well. Then you can go on your journey of, all right, well, I might specialize in this or I might specialize in that. Where, just like we were talking about before, both Tom and I have very similar interests when it comes to fitness, but then I would say very different areas of speciality.
Yeah, we sort of went through different pathways, I guess, and based on what we enjoy or what we like to do.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No.
Expose yourself to as much as you want as a new trainer or as a trainer that's been in the industry for quite a while. If you want to be taking up an internship and you've been in the industry for 10 years, if that's something that you're interested in, still do it because you'll learn a hell of a lot from that as well. And attend seminars. That's probably a good segue, maybe, into research the different seminars of individuals that you would enjoy listening to. So maybe start following them on social media, look at their websites as well, find out, or podcasts are great as well, to be able to try and absorb that knowledge, but then go in and actually listen to them one-on-one, pay money because you were interested in that.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to pay some money to learn something you enjoy. Olympic lifting was something a few years ago. I'd obviously done bits and pieces of, but I'd never formally done any specific training on Olympic lifting. So there was I think I found it on just a Google, or it popped up on my news feed. There was someone running a Olympic lifting seminar one weekend. So I think it was maybe 100, $150, but you go along for a day and they sort of talk you through the different coaching points and methods, and they're quite enjoyable days. You might get something out that you apply it. Even if you don't apply it, it's good knowledge you might apply to your own training or in future.
Yeah, and I guess you've got to look at that as an investment in
Yep.
yourself, not a purchase. That's probably some of the terminology you might use with your clients as well when you're trying to sell them PT packs, is that they're investing in their future and investing in their health. You're doing the exact same thing with your own knowledge. You're investing in your knowledge to just expand your skill set to be able to have the best possible programs for your clients
Yep.
and also have a better career for yourself too.
Yep. So I think learning from like looking for or being open to looking for seminars is a good thing, but I think colleagues is a really big one. So
Huge.
surround who you surround yourself with is obviously important potentially, but when you're at a gym, I guess my experience is we might go through mine, then Aaron can talk about potentially who he's worked with. But I was obviously in the more the athlete development space and clubs, so I had physios around me, exercise physiologists who were more on rehabs. I had strength coaches, sports scientists, and they all play different parts in developing an athlete. But it allows me to develop my skills along the way. So when I first started as a sports scientist, I sort of learnt from the sports scientist before me, or the one who was working with the men's team in conjunction. So how did he set up his athlete monitoring systems? What's the go? So he gives me a baseline to work with, and then I sort of try to implement that. And then it was as fortunate I got a intern under me who was doing his honours at the time while I was working after I'd done mine, and he jumped on board, and he was one of the smartest people I reckon I've ever met in terms of computer programming, Excel. Like he was, I thought I was good. I thought I'd developed a good level of skill. He comes on, he's next level genius, and it's amazing how much you can learn from other people. So I took everything that I had adapted, sports science wise, in the sports science setup, and he comes in and goes, "Hey, that's cool," and then his ideas just flourish from there because he hadn't seen much before. But once he started to get his head around how I had done it, he happens to add his spin on things, and that's sort of how things can develop as well. So take what you can from a whole range of people, because you'll learn a lot of different stuff that you can keep implementing in future.
Yeah, for sure. Mine's a bit of a similar journey too. With when I was going through my degree and I was doing my internship at the strength and conditioning facility, and it was the coaches that were there I learned a lot off as well. But the other people throughout the internship were just some of the best minds that I've come across, and they just had completely different ways of thinking about it. And I was probably quite naive at that point, not thinking that I knew everything, but probably pretty set in my ways. And that was a big eye opener to actually there is more than more than my way to do this, and still keep in contact with a fair few of those people these days as well, purely just to follow them sometimes and see where they're up to, see where they're at with their clients and the way that they approach things. And something as simple as, like Tom said before, an exercise cue for something. It can be a game changer for you, and it can be a game changer for your clients as well. And then coming here to AFA, and Tom and I think we've already covered this a few times, but we started on the same day, so we've been here the exact same amount of time. And I know we probably taught each other little bits and pieces, probably won't admit to it over the journey either, but we have had very similar journey in the way that we have molded our thinking around programming and what we actually do to be able to get the most out of each other. And I think that's where the professional rivalry comes into it as well, is we're always challenging each other in our own thoughts in the most positive way. It's never a negative disagreement. It'll always just be why. Why are you doing it that way? Why are you thinking that way? And I think that actually brings out the best in each other too, in a very professional sense.
Yep, awesome. I think so. You'll learn a lot from your colleagues, and as Aaron said, you can get set in your ways, and it's easy to do. And it's not always a bad thing. Like when you first go out, you first start in the industry, you want to get yourself set up in a comfortable sort of environment, and whether it's the way you run your sessions is fairly similar, which is absolutely fine. But don't be afraid to learn from other people. So as you go, you can develop a different session structure, or develop a different workout plan, or develop a different program template, or develop a different business model, or however you want to continue to add to your skill set throughout.
My advice with that then, don't completely change your philosophy either.
Not at all.
Take bits and pieces from it to make up your own end game as well. So if you're just changing it because you believe that someone else believes that, that's not really the right way to go. But taking parts of that and letting that mold you slightly is probably a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, so it can be learning different concepts, different structures, but also potentially trying different exercises or trying different workouts. Like you've never done, not necessarily CrossFit, but CrossFit style metabolic conditioning sessions or things like that. Try some of yourself or do a different circuit one day just to test it out, see what it's like, because it might be something you're like, oh, that's actually fun or that's enjoyable, or you might say that would suit this certain client that I've got.
Yeah.
So obviously there's lots of different knowledge and theory out there you can look at in terms of hypertrophy, strength, program structure, but also learning different exercises or just practicing different set rep schemes or different rest periods is also a cool thing you can sort of, I guess, learn, but also incorporate into your practice
Yeah,
and
and I would say
experience.
it's important to not to coach anything that you haven't tried yourself. That would be
Yes.
the best way to go. There's no point me trying to teach a client an exercise if I myself haven't done it before and know how I want to perform at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah, that comes into that continual learning. So if you sort of haven't done something, you can't really give it to a client, or it's hard to prescribe it well.
Yeah, because they'll ask you, why am I doing this? And you need to know how that feels
Yeah,
and where you're
it's
feeling something in
yep.
order to be able to say to the client, you need to feel this here.
If you haven't done something, I find it's hard. You might prescribe it and give it to them, and it either ends up being way too hard and not doable, or way easier than you thought it potentially was going to be.
Yeah.
But if you've tried it and you've attempted it, experienced it, it's easy to prescribe, and you know what the result of the session is going to be. So, yeah, learning or getting new experience is not always about theory and different structures. It can be about prescribing exercise or giving exercise as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for jumping on, Aaron. Guys, if you have anything that you do say learn over the next week or two, or you jump on, send me an email, tom@afa.com.au. Tell me what you learned. We can discuss it in the next podcast. If you've got any other topics you'd like us to touch on or expand on, definitely reach out. But thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
That gives out, fed that.
Oh, no.